honestly, I can't say a bad thing about Shark Tank, except that, it probably took a couple of years off my life actually being in the tank that day, but totally worth it.
Welcome to Honest Ecommerce, a podcast dedicated to cutting through the BS and finding actionable advice for online store owners. I'm your host, Chase Clymer, and I believe running a direct-to-consumer brand does not have to be complicated or a guessing game. On this podcast, we interview founders and experts who are putting in the work and creating real results. I also share my own insights from running our top Shopify consultancy, Electric Eye. We cut the fluff in favor of facts to help you grow your e-commerce business. Let's get on with the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Honest Ecommerce. Today, I'm welcoming to the show Amelia Trumble. She is the CEO at Retold Recycling. She's an e-commerce lifer, and we're here to chat about her business. How are you doing today?
Great, thank you. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, I'm excited to chat. So if I'm listening to this and I don't know Retold Recycling, what's the elevator pitch? What's the type of product you guys are offering over there?
Well, if we're talking true elevator pitch, I like to always say, what do you do with your old socks and underwear when they're not fit for purpose anymore? And the answer most people give is like, well, I throw them in the trash, of course. And then that always brings up the conversation of textile-based landfills, because most people just aren't aware that they're contributing. So Retold is a service that my co-founders and I set up. We launched in 2020, and it's a really easy and convenient way to recycle your unwanted clothing and any household items directly from your home. You order our bags from our D2C website, fill them up with all of the things that you don't want anymore. It comes with a label attached. So it's super easy just to pop in the post, send it off to us, and we make sure nothing goes to landfill.
That's amazing. Alrighty. Take me back in time. Where does this story start?
Well, it depends if you want to focus on the Ecomm story or the Retold story, but maybe being this is an Ecomm podcast, maybe I can talk a little bit about my career. So, as you said in the intro, I'm a bit of an Ecomm lifer. My first job out of university was actually working for a very small D2C gardening website startup back in Australia. So, it's, your first Ecomm job where you're updating a CMS and, trying to work out how to do your site refreshes and publish and all of that kind of good stuff. And since then, I've had many different digital roles, but predominantly worked in e-commerce. Back when I was living in Australia, I headed up Ecomm for a very large beauty retailer there called Mecca Beauty. And they had a couple of different sites at the time. So I oversaw all of that kind of in like a general management role in terms of like owning the P&L, owning the site experience, owning customer service, multiple arms there. But I got a bit of an itch to get off the island. So I decided to move to New York, and I was very, very lucky to secure a role in the online division of Estee Lauder. And I started working on MAC Cosmetics, and I was on MAC for my whole tenure at Lauder. But after about 6 years, having worked my way up in the online team at MAC, I also took on some other brands. So I ended up having a portfolio of 6 brands that I oversaw globally for all of their e-com business. So again, full P&L, strategy planning, go-to-market, and then, interacting with our sort of like internal center of excellence on the tech side. So it's a pretty chunky role, fair bit of burnout at the end of that. And basically, went off to sort of work out what I wanted to do next, and consulting just fell in my lap. So I started consulting, but in parallel, a couple of my friends that I'd worked with at Mac, we'd always talked about starting our own thing and doing something good for the world. And around that time that I started consulting, we bought the idea back. And it was just like a conversation that converged with me doing a renovation of my very small Brooklyn apartment, and needing to declutter a whole lot of clothes and not really finding an easy and sustainable solution. And that's really how Retold was born. And so a bit of a mashup of all things colliding. And it's made for a beautiful story, I think. Anyway.
I think it's fantastic as well. And it's authentic and it's true. And so let's kind of take it from there. So you realize that there isn't a solution out there for your problem, which was you had clothes that you didn't want to throw away. You didn't want them to end up in a landfill. So
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about like how do you go from like having a good idea to like having maybe like a business?
Yeah. Well, that's the good question. Like, we actually did a lot of work up front to vet, do we have a business? So it's two of my friends from Mac were my co-founders. Noelle worked on sort of like the social and digital side of things, and Alan is a customer data specialist, and he worked on CRM. So I sort of led out on more D2C and tech, and they obviously helped on other parts, but we all converged to really think about the business model. And, what we knew was the problem, exactly as you said, is that there was nothing that was very easy for you to be able to do at home, to be able to get rid of things in a sustainable way. Like, I was Ubering big IKEA bags of old clothes to a Goodwill, and then the Goodwill would be closed, and there'd be just like clothes strewn all over the ground outside, which I was like, no good's coming of this. I could have also Ubered things to, like a farmer's market on a Sunday and found like a green collection, but that was also very inconvenient. So yeah, there was nothing really out there, and we just actually went about researching the category because all of us were marketers. Like, we didn't know anything about recycling. So we met with a lot of different recycling companies, all who fascinatingly were like, yeah, we'll work with you. Like, we could do that. Like, we can help you. And then when we vetted out sort of the convenience solution around like our yellow bags and having the mailing label attached, and the customer being able to put like anything in there, the good stuff that's new with tags all the way through to those old undies that I mentioned before. When we went back to a lot of these recycling companies, they were like, oh, what do you mean? Like, you want us to sort that? You want us to take mixed materials? And it was just a hard no. So it ended up taking a year and a half of just literally asking anyone with a pulse, basically, like, do you know anyone in textile recycling or has a sorting facility? Before we found our current main partner that we work with, who was able to see our vision, and they kind of like adapted their process to be able to take our business model. So we were very lucky in that respect. So that's kind of how we like vetted, could we be a business? But of course, we naively made like a million mistakes along the way, as most founders do. But yeah, we sort of, a large portion of what we were setting up, because we're all marketers, we really thought significantly about, obviously the web experience, but also customer data, and a lot around the recycling data that we wanted to provide. So one example of that is like from day one, we launched with a ticker on our website that, explained how many tons of materials we've actually diverted from landfills. So we wanted to like be very upfront with that customer communication. So, yeah, I don't know if that really answers the question of how we vetted the business, but there's a lot there.
Oh, no, it did. And I think one thing I want to highlight from what you shared is it took you a year and a half to find a good partner. And that resonated with me because I remember reading something last week or the week before on Reddit about, I don't know if it was a guy or a gal on there kind of saying that they couldn't build their MVP because, their first partner, like just, that they paired with couldn't do it. And then lo and behold, through kind of, people asking questions within the comments, they just went with like the first person they asked. And I think that's a mistake. You got to talk to a lot of people to find the right one. And it's kind of why I wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, I mean, we have a similar story actually where we kind of did a little bit go with the first person that we met with. So on the logistics side, we had a very interesting problem to solve where we wanted to have the mailing label attached to our yellow bags. I can do a bit of a show and tell. It's probably going to be horrible noise-wise, but because we're on video. So this is one of our yellow Retold bags, and it has the mailing label attached.
What size is that, to explain for the listeners?
It's about the size of a pillowcase is like the best way of describing it. And you can get around 5 pounds of textiles in there, like cram it in pretty significantly. So we wanted to send those bags out to people's homes with the mailing label attached. And, we needed we wanted to be able to generate those labels upfront, but have no value attached to them. And they're really like, we had no idea what we were doing when we were trying to find that solution. And actually a good e-commerce friend recommended working with a company called First Mile, who's sort of like at the time, a slow freight aggregator in a way, where they would find out a way of making those solutions for you. And shout out to our rep, who's actually called Chase as well. We were assigned to him. We were one of his first clients, and he really came up with this very innovative solution to kind of use like a returns label that another partner could generate for us. Now we've moved on from that. But being able to send all of those labels out to all of the customers without any value attached obviously saved us thousands of dollars. And it's only activated obviously on scan when the customer puts it in the post. But it's just that kind of thing, I think is something that like having to architect a unique solution like that and almost like jerry rig something that exists for another category, I feel is very like the entrepreneurial story. So we were lucky that we did go with that first recommendation to work with First Mile. And we still work with them today and have a great relationship. But it then took us a lot of work to find the actual solution that we needed for the bag labels.
Yeah, no, and that's a unique problem. And I've obviously, I've been on the website and I've spoken with you before, so I understand the product a bit more, but I want to explain to the listeners as to what that actually looked like and why that was a big problem. Is basically you're sending these bags to folks, they fill them with the stuff they don't want, and then the bag has a shipping label already on it that mails it to your facility for them.
Correct.
So it's very easy, but
it doesn't ever come back to us. It goes to our recycling partner. Yeah.
Now, maybe a lot of listeners don't know this. Anyone that's in e-commerce knows this, but you print a shipping label, you are paying for it when you print it, usually. So to find out a way to have a shipping label on a bag that you're not being charged for to put out there, because I'm sure there's a redemption rate where half these bags don't get used, they get destroyed, lost, whatever. That's a huge problem to solve.
Yeah. And the other layer of it all, well, actually there's multiple layers, is that we needed to be able to track everything because we wanted to know what was going to our partner. One, we needed to pay them for their work and whatever else, but we needed to know the weight of every bag that was going from the customer to the depot for sorting. And so we could capture that tonnage of what was being diverted. And then on top of that, we also launched with a rewards program for our subscribers from day one where we gave them rewards. And so basically we not only needed to know, did a bag go from Amelia to this sorting facility? We needed to know, was Amelia a subscriber? And did her bag go and therefore unlock rewards for her? So there was a lot of work behind the scenes in terms of the tracking, getting all of the reporting behind the scenes, being able to ingest that, firing off emails from our Klaviyo, etc. So yeah, there was a fair bit in the setup.
Absolutely.
But it was great that we had the year and a half trying to find our recycling partner to kind of work through all of those kinks too, to be honest, I guess.
Hey, Shopify store owners. Have you ever wondered if your store is leaving money on the table? Imagine increasing sales without spending more money on ads. Sounds too good to be true. Well, it's not. I'd like to introduce you to Store Tester. Store Tester is a done-for-you conversion rate optimization service for Shopify merchants. Could your store benefit from increased conversion rates, higher average order values, and improved revenue per visitor? Store Tester could be the perfect partner for you. From ideation to implementation, this full-service A/B testing service takes all of the guesswork out of improving Shopify stores. Store Tester does all the work for you while offering month-to-month transparent fixed pricing. It gets even better. They believe in their service so much, they're offering the first test for free for qualified merchants. Let me repeat. The first test is free for qualified merchants. Curious to see if you qualify for a free test? Reach out today. Visit storetester.com to schedule an intro call. That's www.storetester.com. Schedule an intro call today to see if you qualify for a free test. Hey everybody, today's podcast is brought to you by Intelligems, the ultimate profit optimization tool for Shopify merchants. I'm telling you this, obviously you know I own an agency. We use Intelligems when we're running split testing and CRO stuff for all of our clients. Are you looking to maximize your profits? Intelligems offers data-driven solutions to optimize your content, prices, discounts, and shipping rates. Join over 500 happy clients who have seen significant improvements. With Intelligems, you gain control over your e-commerce economics, boosting your profit per visitor by an astonishing 36%. But that's not all. Intelligems users report a 54.62 increase in revenue per visitor and a remarkable rise in conversion rates. How does Intelligems do it? Through a suite of tools that allows you to A/B test everything on your Shopify store, from landing pages to product prices and shipping rates. Imagine testing new layouts, offers, even a new Shopify theme with ease. We're testing a new landing page for our client on a new theme versus an old landing page on their old theme right now. Intelligems empowers you to find the perfect price point for your products and optimize your shipping strategy. But there's more. Boost your average order value with customized campaign offers and discover if your customers prefer free shipping or a lower list price. With over $100 million in incremental profit generated, they have over 1.5 billion transactions ran through their software. They have over 400 million shoppers that have gone through their test. Intelligems is not a tool, it's a game changer for your business. Are you ready to transform your Shopify store's profitability? Book a demo today at intelligems.io. Empower your brand to reach new heights. Again, that's Intelligems, giving superpowers to your customer acquisition, retention, and overall profitability. Absolutely. Now let's talk about, so you work through a bunch of these kinks. Let's talk about the go-to-market strategy. How are you getting these bags into the hands of strangers, people you don't know?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like most businesses, a variety of trial and error around like what works for us. So we have obviously a large percentage of our traffic comes from AdWords because there's actually a very large audience of people who are searching clothing recycling near me or textile recycling. And the great thing about having the word recycling in your brand name is that that works very well for us, and we have some great ROAS on AdWords. Right now, we're very focused on brand and differentiating ourselves from some of the other like adjacent players in the market. So we're doing a lot of work with PR and, sort of like basically using like other methods like affiliate programs, working directly with influencers. Obviously, we have a very robust organic social, communicating our brand messaging all the time. We've done a little bit of podcast, which I think works, advertising, which has worked quite well because it's a longer format to tell a story and explain how to use Retold. We're trialing a whole lot of things. I can tell you what doesn't work really is just like straight up meta advertising. We've tried it many, many times, retargeting, all of it. Like it just doesn't seem to convert, and it's quite a crowded space when we're looking at the customer we're trying to target. So that's why we've tried to flip it and go after traffic in some other ways. But honestly, like the thing that we're most proud of is the word of mouth and our refer a friend program, or even just, when we run a social giveaway and our customers tagging their friends in the comments to try and win stuff. Like we actually have a very significant response because what we find is our customers are like obscene advocates for what we're doing. Either they love the convenience or they love the eco aspect, and hopefully they love both. And that just means they shout loud and proud about Retold. So we're very lucky for our passionate audience.
Awesome. And I know that recently you guys have expanded a little bit, not only D2C anymore, but you're moving into retail. Let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so we're working with some agents to try and get us into eco groceries. So that's in progress right now, basically pitching some grocery chains here on the West Coast, but also working with some more boutique retailers to get us in the hands of, gift shops, eco stores, basically, sort of our network that we're already tapped into. We're sort of, following up and rolling all of that out right now. And then the next frontier will probably be some of our larger fashion partners and being able to, sell our little box. I've got another show and tell here. So these items will be available in retail stores within the next couple of months. And then we'll probably look to sell them on our D2C as well, particularly around the holidays, because it's just such a giftable item. It's great. Like if you've got an eco-obsessed friend or family member, like to be able to gift some bags for around $15 is pretty cool. But yeah, there's a lot of expansion happening on the retail side. One thing that we haven't talked about is that we were on Shark Tank last year, and we amazingly had a, gift from the universe that Mark Cuban smiled upon us with a deal. And his whole vision for us was like very broad distribution, in the tank. He was like, this needs to be available in every 7-Eleven in America. So that's basically our charge and what we're going after.
Absolutely. I kind of buried the lead there. What other things about Shark Tank? Our listeners love Shark Tank stories. Yeah. So what else can you share with us about that whole experience?
Wow. I mean, I was like horrified. Like it was a very personally traumatic day because I was, it's so much pressure and, you're so scared, and like being in that tank is, very, very, very intimidating. But honestly, I can say like for our business, it was completely transformational in the doors that it's opened, being able to say that we're, on the show, but also, be able to associate ourselves with Mark, has opened so many doors for us. Like, honestly, it's been less about the cash that we receive, but more about the relationship. And, we work in very closely with some people in his team at Mark Cuban companies, and, they're absolutely fabulous and support our business, in so many different ways. So, honestly, I can't say a bad thing about Shark Tank, except that, it probably took a couple of years off my life actually being in the tank that day, but totally worth it. So,
is there something about the Shark Tank experience that you think like a average person wouldn't know?
I mean, that it's actually real. Like the sharks walk into the tank and don't know anything about your business other than your names and the name of your company. So your pitch to them up front is completely real. Like you are cold pitching them. So that's pretty fascinating. The production side of the business does diligence on you to a certain extent before you go in the tank. So you are like a legitimate business and there's no enormous red flags. But yeah, like we're all like, oh, surely they know, like there's something pre-crafted about, whether you're allowed in the tank or not, but they really didn't know. So I thought that was scary, but great at the same time.
Absolutely. Now, we're recording this just on the precipice of Q4 2024. We've got Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas around the corner. What does that mean to Retold Recycling? How are you guys thinking about, tackling marketing this year?
Yeah, so I mean, traditionally we haven't been like a holiday business, obviously, but now that we have our retail packs, like I think we will play more in that space and tell more of a gifting story. We also have a sustainable store on retoldrecycling.com where we sell items from other brands that we love, and they're very giftable too. So we talk about that. We kind of do our gift guide storytelling. We're obviously promotional for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. It's just such a huge volume time. Like, why not get amongst it? But honestly, during Q4, our biggest moment is actually National Recycling Day, which is in November. So we play a lot there and play a lot on the B2B side as well, with a lot of different companies and brands that we partner with to bring their recycling story to life. So it's almost like we have a pre-Black Friday in November before Black Friday. So it's our team's absolutely slammed, but it's a key tentpole for us. So November, National Recycling Day, and then also Earth Month, Earth Week, and Earth Day in April are our big moments.
Absolutely. It must be, I feel like businesses like yours that have, obviously Amazon made Prime Day, it's just made up day. But like when you have a business that's tied to something that is outside of Q4 and like the main shopping seasons, I feel like that's, just an extra advantage to your business.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it gives you space to play. Obviously, we're just after Labor Day and we did a Labor Day sale, but we were like one of many. But we definitely have sort of like the right to shout loud during those key eco times. And I think a very important part of the business that we think about, that's not just like obviously selling our bags, but it's also providing education materials and, setting up events, whether it be like webinars or in-store events, etc., on behalf of partners. So giving them the toolkit and the credibility to sort of like roll out to their audience during those peak times. So it's very layered for us. It's not just, we start our promo at midnight and we've got 4 emails planned and we're watching our conversion like we would normally think in the ecom world. There's a lot of omni-channel activity and activity on behalf of partners as well. So yeah, it's a pretty nuanced and busy time for us.
Now, is there anything I didn't ask you about that you think would resonate with our audience?
I don't know. I mean, like, I'm honestly happy to chat with anyone. So find me on LinkedIn, whether you want to tell like ecom war stories or, learn more about recycling. But I mean, I think the great thing and, why I've obviously always, worked in e-commerce for such a long time is just the connection to the customer. Being able to get that direct response, whether it be in the form of sales or reading chat transcripts of someone who's having a problem and being able to fix it on the fly, reading our reviews, shout out to our friends at Akendo, all of that kind of thing. I just love that close proximity to the customer. And that's something that I'm obviously thinking a lot about as we do move into sort of like having wholesale SKUs. And then, one, important thing that has come up for our business that actually stems directly from, the customer feedback is we created a scraps bag, more show and tell. You can tell I just have a whole heap of bags just like sitting on my desk, but basically this is another bag that was born from the feedback from our audience saying, hey, we do a lot of like sewing and quilting and crafting and we have all these like scraps, like, will you take them? And of course we were saying yes, but behind the scenes, our recycling partners were not really loving it because a whole lot of, fluff goes everywhere as they're trying to sort through the clothes and everything in the bag. So we created the dedicated scraps bag. So it's that kind of expansion that we get very excited about because we're like directly listening to the customer. We now have the infrastructure, that's sort of like ready for us to roll out more and more products. So we're very excited about that. And then the other thing that I'm personally like super pumped about is hopefully in October, we're actually going live with a new D2C site, obviously still on Shopify, but our current site's actually like our MVP site from like pre-launch. So we've obviously, made a million updates, but we're really, really excited about a new lick of paint and the exact tech stack that we want with the theme, with all of the capabilities. So ecom nerds, will totally understand how much I've been loving that process, being able to update everything. So that's coming later in the year too.
Amelia, I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast today and sharing your story. Just one more time, if I'm listening to this and I've got a closet full of nonsense and I need to recycle it, what do I do?
Jump on retolledrecycling.com and order some of our bags, send them to your house, do a big declutter, and you just need to seal them up and pop them out for your post person or put them in the closest USPS mailbox. And follow us on Retold at Retold Recycling on Instagram or TikTok and follow along and, learn some great eco tips and really, work on your recycling practice.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
We can't thank our guests enough for coming on the show and sharing their knowledge and journey with us. We've got a lot to think about and potentially add into our own businesses. You can find all the links in the show notes. You can subscribe to the newsletter at honestecommerce.co to get each episode delivered right into your inbox. If you're enjoying this content, consider leaving a review on iTunes. That really helps us out. Lastly, if you're a store owner looking for an amazing partner to help you get your Shopify store to the next level, reach out to Electric Eye at electriceye.io/connect. Until next time.